Hi out there, and welcome to the Revere Veterans and Community Show. Today we have a guest who, when I first started on TV, Mr. Deveau, let me welcome you first of all.
Thank you for coming. To be here, Morris. We finally made it.
Yep, we finally made it. Way back in March, when you first started the very first show, it was an honor for us, Eileen and myself, to come on your show, Ed. Yeah. And we were nervous like heck, and you made us feel so much at home, so I want to thank you. And on behalf of Eileen, I want to thank you.
Yes, and you know, it seems like so long ago that back in March, that was our first news show that we have done. We've done other shows, and you were our first guest on our news show.
Right, and I had beautiful curly black hair that time.
Yeah, it does seem like years ago since then, but it's been great doing that.
By the way, you're a great host, not only on this, what the other shows too. So I like to mention to them.
Well, from one of the best hosts I know, I mean, I am totally honored by that. Honor.
Hey, I watch you and I learn from you. Believe you me. So thank you.
Well, thank
you. You also do a show, Focus on Revere, which I believe. Yeah, Focus on Revere. Could you tell us a little about that show?
Sure. Focus on Revere is a lot like your show. In which we try and we focus primarily there on community groups. You focus on a lot of people who are also part of community groups, and many run groups and efforts within the city. So we're similar things in that if there's a group within the city that has an event going on or something they want to promote, or even their organization they want to promote, we'll have them come on for a half-hour program, and we talk about what that event is, what their organization is, and we get people to understand and know who they are, what they are, and how they might be able to help and contribute to it.
Right, and you also have another show, by the way, which I would like to mention. It's called the Revere Review, which is a new show. So you bring people up to par, or roughly up to par, what's happening in the city and around?
Yeah, and that's a fun one to do, and it's really like when you look at some of the TV shows that have been done about news programs and newspapers and the deadline issues. It's a lot like that. You know, we're scouring the Journal and the Advocate and the Globe and different sources that we have around the city for news stories, and we get together roughly 2 weeks before the show actually airs, and we sit down and we plan what the stories are. Then we develop the script for the stories, and then we tape the program, and then it finally gets edited a little bit to add some photos and video and stuff like that to enhance it, and then it's published. So it's about a 2-week process to put on each show.
I'm going to tell you, Ed, you know, usually when I bring a guest on, the guest is nervous. This time the host is
Well, you know, it's interesting you say that, and you know, and you do a great job of it. I mean, in helping people feel more comfortable, and that's a key to it. And a lot of times, particularly with the Focus on Revere shows that I do, people come to me from their organization, and they know all about their organization, all about the event they do, and they have so much information. But sometimes it's hard to organize those in a thought without being helter-skelter and all over the place. So I usually sit down with them ahead of time, ask them about the organization and the event, make some notes, and actually establish questions, because all I have to do is ask you a question. You know the answer.
Right.
But you know, so you're not having to worry about, you know, where should I talk about this, where should I talk about that, and I kind of help lead the process, and you do a similar thing in the way you do it
right,
as well.
But I watch you do 2 shows I watch you do a lot of shows, but 2 that I really liked. Particular one was the Shine show you did at the American Legion when they went around to clean up the city, remember?
Oh yeah, Revere Shines, yes. You know, and that's so much fun, and we were talking earlier about going out in the field. You know, doing these shows in the studio are great. It's a lot of fun doing them and stuff like that, but it's even more fun when you get to go out in the field. Revere Shines was great because we were all over the city that day, interviewing people, taking photos and videos of the activities that were going on.
Right, and when you did the sandcastle, you were all over the beach.
And that's the biggest field event of them all for us, you know, really each year, is the sand sculpting event. And I remember 3 years ago was basically my first real full, you know, jumping into the whole thing, and got to pound the sand with the sculptors and, you know, learn what they were doing, and it was a great education. And that's the fun part of it, is all the people that you meet and all the shows that you do, you're learning. You're learning so much more. Even the news that we do, I mean, we all know about what's going on in Revere to a certain extent, but until you sit down and actually work on putting together a news show, you maybe don't get all the details, and it allows you to get a little bit more details and background and understanding what's going on. So it's been a lot of fun.
Right. I want to mention something on here, Ed. You are also on the Beachmont Improvement Committee.
Yeah.
Tell us exactly what you're doing, if people can help you, how to get a hold of it.
Sure. Well, and more importantly, I live in Beachmont. I've been there since 1965, and plan to live there probably for the rest of my life. I love Beachmont.
Can I ask you where on
Sure.
Beachmont?
On Crescent Ave in Beachmont. Yeah.
I used to live on
right
Dal-
behind, almost behind the old fire station.
When I first came to Revere, Massachusetts, I lived on Dolphin Avenue,
Oh, there you go. Okay.
which is
so,
not far
oh,
from Crest.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you can come back. We're looking for people to come back.
To Beachmont?
For sure. Beachmont is every section of the city has great pride, and there's a lot to be said for each section of the city. Those of us who are from Beachmont are really proud of where we come from, but more importantly, there's a thing within Beachmont that goes back generations. There are 5-6 generations of families that still live in Beachmont, and it's amazing. We started this group about 4 years ago, just to do projects around the Beachmont area to help clean up public areas, make people feel more proud and safe, really, around the area. And there's a number of projects. We used to start in Donnelly Square, just doing a cleanup twice a year and planting flowers there. Then we got involved in developing this park, Douglas Cummings Park, which is a huge memorial park that we actually raised money by selling pavers and holding a bunch of fundraising events. One of the fundraising events, to go back to the generations issue and the pride of Beachmont, we held a Beachmont reunion about 3 years ago at the Wonderland Ballroom, and we had over 500 people came to this event.
Wow.
From all over the country. There are people who hadn't seen each other in years, and it's amazing how it's just like they had never left. People were just coming out of the woodworks. It was just
That
incredible.
had originally lived in Beachmont?
That had lived in Beachmont, and many who had grown up in Beachmont, and living and growing up there, it just kind of holds a special place in our hearts. And so when you've lived there, as long as that and grown up in there, it just, there's a special feeling for it. So we in the Beachmont Improvement Committee are involved in a number of projects, basically trying to instill that spirit in many of the new residents that live there and the existing residents to do what we can to kind of maintain that pride. And like I said, we have Douglas Cummings Square, which has been a 4-year project for us that we've raised money for, and we're actually going to have a dedication ceremony coming up the end of September on that, and there's going to be more information coming out.
Right, but if they want to get a hold of you with that, tell them how they can reach you.
Sure, you can reach me at 781-485-0279. Yep. They call me at that number, and I'd be glad to answer any questions there are that you may have on it. The other things that we've been doing, Beachmont Improvement Committee worked with Revere on the Move, who I'm sure you've had on your show, and Kate Blackford and the folks in Revere Cares. They offered grants every year for healthy initiative projects. We submitted an application to create the second urban trail in Revere. So the first one was down near the Whalen School. So Beachmont is going to be the second urban trail. And the urban trail starts at the Beachmont Elementary School, and it will go past the Douglas Cummings Park, down Crescent Ave to the Parkway where Short Beach is. It's going to go along the Parkway up to Elliott Circle at the beginning of Revere Beach, and then comes back south through Donnelly Square to the school. So it's approximately 2 miles, and what it does is it goes around Beachmont. So it gives people a sense of what Beachmont is, and we highlight, there's about 6 or 7 areas on the route that are highlighted, for people to get to know the area and to see some of the great sites that exist there.
I got to tell you, that's very good and excellent. When I first came to Revere, since I've lived in Revere, they've had 4 new schools built. They got a 5th one coming up in the school.
Yep.
New fire station, 2 new police stations. Broadway is being renovated, which they did a beautiful job on. Are there any future plans going on
In Beachmont?
in Revere itself?
Well, you're going to have to talk to the mayor about that one. I mean, he knows better about the future plans. But to that point, and you bring up all those things that are happening, and of course, there's the casino issue, which,
I was gonna get to
doing
that,
the
but you
news
take
show and being in Beachmont, we're all very close to that issue, and excited that it's gone beyond the mitigation signing, and now it's going to be coming to the vote, and we'll be doing some shows coming up on that soon.
As a matter of fact, I was planning to do a show myself, if I may say so, with Chip Tuttle,
Yep,
Andy Petroselli, Mayor Rizzo,
yep.
John Fester, up, not here, at the location.
Well, you know, and that's so important. You know, we may do some stuff on the news program. We may even do a focus on Revere on it. You're going to do a show. The key really is we've got 60 days to get out the information about this agreement so people truly understand what it's all about and what it means to the city of Revere. Because then at that point, on November 5th, will be the vote.
Well, November the 5th
November 5th is the vote. So it's election day, basically. It's the one where we'll be electing city councilors and school committee people and so forth as well.
Right. I would like to stick with you, if I may, on the casino for a few minutes, because I hear a lot of people talking, they're worried about the traffic and they're worried about this, but they don't realize that if the money does not come into the city because of the casino and bring the money in, our tax rate is going to have to go up eventually.
Yeah.
And people say, the homeowners, when their tax rate goes up and they have apartments that they rent out to the tenants, they're just going to charge the tenants more rent because they got to make up the difference. So people are worried about the money coming in, but also about the traffic. And I always said there is no problem that cannot be solved. You know, and it takes time. The traffic will be taken care of. They did it in Atlantic City. They did it in Times Square, New York. They did it in Michigan Avenue in Chicago. By the way, many years ago when I worked up in Midland, Michigan, I happened to go to Chicago where they have the big Twin Tower, Sears Tower there.
Been there a few times, yes?
Yeah, the traffic at one time there was very brutal. Now when I speak to people that I know, hardly any traffic at all.
Yeah, and I'm not sure why that is.
Excuse me, one other thing I heard last night. I was watching Channel 9.
Okay.
That they have something coming up now for the fire engine, the police car, and the ambulance. I don't know what they call it. Maybe it's a transponder or something. That if they come near a light and the light is red,
light will change.
The light will change green.
That's a great thing.
I never heard of that before till last night.
Yeah, because as you know, they all have to slow down for the red light, and they go through the red light, but they do have to slow down. They'll still have to slow down because even though it changes, you may have traffic coming the other way, but it's a great change. But to go back to the casino and the traffic, I mean, there are many, many issues around the casino. And fair disclosure, I'm a proponent of the casino. I think it's going to be a good thing for the city. But that being said, I know there are going to be issues. I mean, the traffic, in my mind, is probably one of the biggest issues. And I know that they're throwing a lot of money at the traffic. I still want to see some more details about what they're doing, particularly in Donnelly Square section of Beachmont. I know there's quite a bit of money is going to be devoted to some traffic solutions in that area, but we don't know what those are yet. We'd like to, see more about that. So, yeah, I think they're going to do everything they can to make it the best they can because you want to make it easy for people to get there, but you also need to be aware of what's going to be the impact in the surrounding community in terms of what they're doing. So that to me is a big question. But the whole thing comes down to, I think, as you said, economic development in the city. And again, I'm a proponent. There are people that might disagree with me about it. I think that the benefits will far outweigh the negatives of it. Yes, there have been some horror shows. I know Atlantic City was not good to the neighborhood that it grew up in.
Well, but outside the neighborhood, not inside. Atlantic City, the boardwalk itself
the boardwalk did well, but I mean the surrounding communities, and that's what we need to be concerned with. We are the surrounding community, so we need to be aware of and concerned with the impact that Suffolk Downs will have on us as a community, and I think they're trying to do all the right things.
Excuse me, Ed, but in those days, they didn't have cameras. Now they put a lot of cameras on in Atlantic City, and the crime rate has gone down.
Well, that's, and that's another area of concern is crime, and I know that it's Suffolk Downs Caesars, and now I forget the gentleman that's the head of security that used to be Boston police chief who went to
Evans?
London. Yes, Evans. I know I've heard him speak a number of times about what they're doing. If I understand it correctly, there is funding in there to support the additional policing that's going to be needed in the community end of it. So they seem to be providing the resources to help kind of, head off security crime issues and stuff like that, but there's going to be crime issues.
The only thing I hope the city, I don't know if they can do it, to split the thing between East Boston and Revere 50-50, and I'll tell you why I'll tell you why I would be sticking to that thing. East Boston is not going to have the traffic problem that we're going to have coming in from the north. They got the subway They got the boats. I mean, they can come into Atlantic Avenue with their boats and
Yep.
dock there and take the the subway to Suffolk Downs and get up. We're going to have the traffic coming in from all the northern cities, so we're going to have a little bit more to do than East Boston is. So I would have liked to see 50-50, but I don't know if it's going to go that route.
Well, obviously it's not, because you've seen the agreements.
I know
and
that.
I think the city of Revere is getting
10%?
roughly 14 million. You know, if in the best of situations, versus 32 million for the city of Boston. So it's a little bit less of a split than that. But you know, the biggest. It's not only what we're getting from the casino, I think, but the other benefit to the city is the economic development that's going to take place within this city. You know, you look around the properties along the beach, you know, where Shaw's used to be, and the other properties down
I
the
live right
beach.
behind Shaw's, by the
There
way.
you go. You know, so you see it all the time. But, you know, then there's those number of properties along the beach that, because of economic downturns and stuff like that, never got developed. Well, a lot of those properties will start to get developed, I believe, as a result of the casino going in. Because think about it. If you're coming to spend a weekend at the Suffolk Caesars Casino, what better place to spend than along Revere Beach in a hotel, you know? So I think there'll be some benefits, and I think there'll be some real big developments coming as a result of that. So we'll get even more money in addition to what we get from the casinos.
Question that came up that was asked to me, maybe you could answer it for me. I won't mention the restaurant owner's name, but he was worried about his business being cut down because of the restaurants and the casino. But I don't think that would happen. I think people come in, they stay hotel, they go out, they're going to go there.
Yeah.
If the food is good, they're going to go there.
Yeah, you know, and I know that one of the areas that, if I remember right, and if I heard correctly, is that Revere actually did better than Boston relative to the deal that it got for vendors within the city, in terms of how much Suffolk will contribute, if you will, or in terms of they give vouchers, I think, to the guests at the casino to use the surrounding businesses. And I think Revere actually got a larger share than East Boston in terms of that amount. I don't know if that's for sure. Time will tell how that plays out in terms of how much additional business those vendors, the restaurants and so forth, get. We'll just have to wait and see. But they're trying to do whatever they can to help address those issues. We'll just have to see the way it plays out. But I think overall, I think there's going to be a benefit from it.
Right, Ed. I could see why you're a good host. I can really see why you're, because you're helping me out too. By the way, can you take me back to your very first day, on your very first time you got started in this?
Oh gosh.
I don't mean to pinpoint you how old you are.
No. I guess I have to go back probably even further in a way. You know, in my day job, I work.
Tell us about your day job.
Well, currently I have a consulting practice. I do disaster recovery planning. As I tell people, I help businesses plan for what they hope never happens. So my job is to go in and sit down with the business ahead of time and identify what they do for a living, help them identify what the really important things that need to get done on a daily basis are, what they need to get that done, what sort of actions they need to take to get those things done, and where they might go to do it. So I help them do all that planning ahead of time, so that if, as we say, if the bell ever goes off, they know what they need to do.
And how do they get a hold of you on that?
That's basically my job. Again, the same number, 781-485-0279.
Repeat that number.
781-485-0279. We're not supposed to be doing commercials.
No, we're not. We're not doing commercials.
But at any rate, it's and I bring that up only by saying that way back in my career, and I started doing it at a bank. Way back then, I had to do presentations to people. You know, so it was organizing my thoughts. You know, being able to speak clearly to people and to educate them as to what, you know, I was trying to do or what I'm trying to teach them. So I started back then, and all of those times I've been involved in music. I was a DJ, just as you are. I did.
I'm sure you were a better one.
No. I did it for from 1983 till about the mid 90s. 1983 until about the mid 90s. I was almost 12 years. I was a disc jockey, and it was a lot of fun. Had a great time doing that. And I didn't do a lot of talking then, but I was out in crowds and working, and being able to think fast on your feet in terms of what songs to put on and stuff like that. And so little by little, I got involved in that and media. And one of the things I always was interested in getting involved with is maybe doing a radio station, job or a TV job. And an opportunity came up here at Revere TV about 3 years ago, I think it was. Gennaro Cataldo, one of the members of the board, knew of my interest.
Is she the one that's doing the cancer?
No, Gennaro, Dr. Cataldo.
Is he the one doing the cancer run
Yes,
the Wayland
well,
School?
for I believe in honor of his wife, Rosemary. Yes. So Dr. Cataldo's on the board. He invited me to become a member of the board. I sent my application and letter in, and I became a member of the board. And one thing led to another, and my passion for doing this sort of thing came about. And I think Focus on Revere was the first one. And to be honest with you, I don't remember what the first one was. But for me, that first day was kind of like the culmination of a journey, so to speak, to get to that point. And it was so much fun to be able to do it, to be on camera, to be able to interview people, and just to continue doing basically what I do for a living now. I interview people to understand what it is they do for a living.
Pretty good.
So it's fun.
Now I got to ask about your education
Sure.
and your family.
Yep.
Oh, before we go down route, I've got to say, the show is called the Revere Veterans and Community. You are really a community veteran from what you just told me. So if they could give
Thank
out
you.
medals for different things, I would have given you one.
Well, and before I talk about, my education and my family and whatever, but then you make a point about Revere veteran, community veteran. Part of why I'm in Revere TV and why I'm involved with the Beachmont Improvement Committee and some of the other groups that I've been involved in is being involved in the community. I mean, as I said, I've been in Beachmont since '65, and truly consider, for a long time I called myself a transplant. I am coming to feel like I am a true resident now. But with that comes responsibilities, and I'm at a point in my life with my career, my family, and wherever where I'm able to give back, and so doing all of these things is part of that giving back and trying to help the community become what I'd like to see it become, and that's the important thing with anybody in a community is to participate, in some small way with community groups. You don't have to be on the board of directors. You don't have to be a leader. You just, if they have something coming up on a Saturday where they're doing a cleanup project, come down for 2 hours and participate in that. And that's all you need to do. So do something in some small way to help out, with these groups. And that's my PSA for community groups. But when you talk about veterans and communities, that's one of the things that comes to my mind.
Let me ask you about your education.
Sure.
What school? Where did you go to school? Let me put it that way.
Well, that's another story. I actually I was born in East Boston, lived there for 7 years, the first 7 years of my life. So I went to school there, and then at 7 years old, my family moved to Panama. My father had a job working on the Panama Canal.
Wow.
So I had the very good fortune at an early age in life to go move from East Boston to Panama, and I lived there for 11 years. So for all practical purposes, I grew up.
Can you
in
speak
another
a little
country.
Spanish?
Sí, yo hablo español un poquito.
Good. I got to remember that when I get.
But so I grew up in Panama, graduated from high school in Panama. And then when I came back from Panama in 1965, and when I graduated, I was living in Revere that summer, and I received a thing in the mail for a programming school for computer programming. And if you remember back then, in the mid '60s, computers were just starting to take off. So I applied. I got
Well, they must have bypassed me because I still don't know how to work one.
So, I applied for the school. I got into the school. I went to school for about 1.5 years to learn computer programming.
Wow.
And the bottom line is it got me a job in a field that was just starting to take off. I got in at the ground level, and I was able to grow with it. I worked for a bank for 28 years, and then I left at that point to go start my consulting practice. Relative to my education, when I graduated from high school, I went to this computer programming school, never went on to formal college, so I don't have any degrees. And I talk to people today, in today's world, it's a little different. You know, in today's world, I wouldn't advise anybody not to try and get a degree of some sort.
You need one
because
today, but
education, you know, in college degrees
Right.
is so important. I mean, jobs are difficult, and sometimes, you know, even with a degree, it's hard to get a job. But without a degree, it's even harder. Back when I did it, it was a little easier with a certain amount of initiative and skill, and some of the right people, frankly, looking out for you. I told you I do these shows, I do speaking shows. There's a speech, for lack of a better word, or a presentation that I do called, the title is "Thank You God, I'm the Luckiest Man on Earth."
I think you are.
You know, and I say that by way of saying, when I look at all the things that have happened in my life, there have been people involved in my life, there are things that I've done in my life that have just kind of set me on a path that wasn't so much a master plan, but it happened and it worked out really well. So I am very lucky.
Right. By the way, now, I want to say I am very lucky to have had you up here.
Well, thank you very much,
And I want to
Morris.
thank you for coming. Really, you did an excellent job, and you taught me a lot of good things. So I want to thank you for that. And since we only have about a minute and a half left, I would like to say, again, thank you for coming. I know it took a long time to get you. And I want to say, like I always do, God bless you, Ed.
Oh, thank you very much, Morris. I appreciate it, and the same to you. It's been a real pleasure being here, and I look forward to having you on the Revere Review at some point in time.
I'd
and
love
maybe
to come on there.
on Focus on Revere. I think you're a person we could do an interview with.
Okay. And to the people of Revere, God bless you. God bless our troops. And God bless our great country, the United States of America. Until the next time, thank you all for listening. And keep tuned to RTV Channel 8. Thank you.
Take care.